Camtasia 2022 is now here, and it's loaded with goodies for a variety of video content creators. For the more artistic and designer types, there are features like blend mode, spotlight, multicolor gradients, stackable motion graphics, and emphasis effects. In other words, Camtasia is now a more capable, artistic, and animation video editing tool. If you're an instructional designer or educational content creator type, there are a number of game-changing features that will help you to increase the polish and professional quality of your deliverables. A few favorites include cursor path effect and cursor path editing, library assets like animated line indicators, micro-animated icons and glyphs, and a plethora of additional animations and effects. Now, before I dive into talking about the release's new features, I want to mention that the good folks at TechSmith have given me a special 10% discount coupon code to share with you. Use the code GORDISMAN10 during checkout once you click on the link provided in the description below. Let's dive in. In Camtasia 2022, the ability to enhance the quality of your tutorials and demos where you feature the use of cursors has just gone way up. Not only can you add a cursor and animate it anywhere, whether it's in a Camtasia recorded file or on any other media that you bring in, this new feature of being able to add a cursor to anything is super powerful. It brings possibilities that weren't there before. But that's not all. There are so many implementation features in this release that are very exciting for cursors, and one of them is the cursor path edit. And that's been added to the properties panel. And we're going to look at that now and see how you can improve upon things that you've created. Let's suppose that you created a tutorial and you had some problems with some of the navigation and what you were trying to demonstrate. Well, you can now edit and fix all that. So let's dive in and take a look there and see all about those enhancements for editing cursors. Now let's take a closer look at the Edit Cursor Path feature. The Edit Cursor Path feature has been implemented in the Cursor Properties tab. As you can see here, Edit Cursor Path and the enhancement of these other parameters that are part of what you do to edit the cursor path. But before I go in, I want to scale my example up, which happens to be here a tutorial clip from an Evernote tutorial I was doing. So I'm just going to scale that up and just bring it in for my my closer examination so we can just focus on the cursor path. Down at the bottom here, I have my TREC file, which is a Camtasia recorded file, which contains all kinds of metadata points internally. And what they've done in the implementation of the Edit Cursor Path is give you access to those details. So every point where the cursor moves is in essence metadata, as well as things like your mouse clicks and keystrokes and other stuff. But they've implemented it in a way so you're not overburdened with every detail point. Just there's a certain set amount of points, and you can add and enhance and delete, and you're going to see how that works. So let's go in. I'm going to click Edit Cursor Path, and as you can see, we're prompted to choose simplify existing path or create a new one. In this case, we're just going to create the simplify path. Click Continue, and now you can see we have this path here. And down on the bottom, you can see there's like this keyframe approach that shows the different cursor points. So if I double click on a cursor point up here, you can see it's also reflected down here, almost like a keyframe execution in the timeline. So I just clicked around, and if you notice the current point that you're on is highlighted in yellow, and you can see that. And as you move the playhead, you'll see there's a little diamond figure here. And if I click on the right mouse here, I can add a cursor point there. See? I just added one there, and I can also just as easily delete the cursor point. So it's that easy to add or delete, and I can also just touch it on the timeline and it does an addition. I'm going to undo that one now just to go back to our clean line. So we just have these three cursor points, but now to edit, you can just, let's go back to this cursor point, and notice that because I'm on a cursor point, the line types opened up, and there's 4 line types here. These last 3 here are different kinds of like Bezier curve styles. So if I click on this one, you notice I have a handle to the right, and you notice how the curvature is like a Bezier style curve. And if I click on the one that has a handle to the left, I can similarly do adjustments there. So it's very dynamic and very precision oriented. So if you move in and out, you can see all the combinations in the way you can address the curve. And here's one with a double-ended handle, which I think is a nice, easier way to balance. So you can see there are so many details there. There's also the concept of easing implemented. Just like easing we use in animations, you can now use it in your cursor points. So I'm going to go into these kind of details in another tutorial. Please let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see a deeper dive in cursor path editing and some great use cases. We'll do that. But we're going to now go and look at an example so that you can see a before and after of the application of this. But before I go, I'm just going to show you one thing. Let's pretend I selected on the timeline down here all the points, and then I sort of grabbed one. You can see I can already move the height and level of the whole set of points, and it's that easy. So if I just replay now, you can see the path is now down in a whole different area. Okay, so now let's go look at the example. First, let's take a quick look at a before and after. As you can see in my tutorial, I have on the left side the before picture, which is a cursor going down the path of a menu as I travel down a menu in my tutorial. And you can see it's right over top of the words. I wanted to, in fixing the path, move it a bit to the right, and I added a few more points. And if you look down at the bottom, you can kind of see how the timeline was affected with the sort of keyframe elements that make the cursor points. So now let's see how that plays out. So I have the before and after here. You can see the first piece here on my timeline is a little longer than the second piece. The second piece here is the after, and it's actually about half the size. So I was able to tighten things up and make some improvements. So I'm going to play the original here, and I just want you to see that the cursor size I used was 225%. You see that in the top right. And in the second piece, which is the fancy edited one, I moved the cursor scale to 400% because now the cursors are vector based, the images scale beautifully, and they're crisp all the time, no matter what the size. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to play, and as you can see, I'm moving down the menu pretty slowly. I'm crossing on top of the letters of the words, and by the time I finally click, it's a little while, so I just wanted to show you how long that takes. And now if I go to the new version and I click on there, and I'm going to play the same thing. Here's the same menu. Don't worry about that purple. That was just from a cursor effect, which you're going to see in a little bit when I show some of the assets from the library. So see, I'm navigating down much faster. The cursor's much bigger. You hear a nice little click I added. And now we can see how I go through and navigate through the rest of the tutorial pieces. I'm not blocking the words or the letters, and I just have made the navigation nice and beautiful with a lot of little extra effects. And I just think it's so much cleaner and has such a more attention-grabbing feel. And that's what the beauty of all of this path editing and tuning that you can do. I also quickened that second piece up by using the clip speed. So there's a number of things that you can do, as you know, when you're editing to always improve upon things, but I thought that looked pretty good. So far we've seen how to edit cursor path metadata based on something like a T-Rec recording inside Camtasia. That recording has metadata, which means it has all the cursor point details, and all we had to do in the demo we already saw was click on the cursor properties tab, and then we can edit the cursor path and do all kinds of cool things. Well, what happens if you have an image or a video that's not from within inside Camtasia and there's no metadata? Well, let's see how you can add a cursor effect right now. So now we're inside Camtasia, and I want you to first just take a look, and we're going to use an image I have to add a cursor path to, and that's a snapshot from the phone I have, my Samsung. And what I want to do now is add a cursor effect to this. But if you notice, if I click on the context of this image, there's no cursor properties tab here. So what does that mean? The only way to do this is now to add the cursor path special effect. So we click and drag it on and see it turn green, the framing, and now it's been added. And all of a sudden we have a path on our screen. So now we can easily scale the cursor and then go do all that fancy editing that we demonstrated already. Now let's look at a video clip. You'll see here that this video clip is something that's also from my Samsung phone, and it's part of the demo that we're going to look at shortly. You can see the pictures moving and it's clearly a video clip. But again, notice if I click on it for context in the top right corner, we don't have a cursor's property tab. So we have to use the cursor effect again. So let's do the same thing as we did with the image. Now I'm going to drop the cursor effect on, and I'm just going to move the cursor playhead back to the beginning, and you can see here on the timeline we have our keyframes and our motion segment here, and I can scale up the cursor a little. Let's just see that grow, and you can see, so now we have a path, and we've already gone through all the details on how to edit these paths in our previous demo. So now let's dive into an example that I'm going to show you where I've applied the cursor effect to how to open up a Kindle app on my Samsung phone. Let's check that out. Okay, so this is the demo, and the demo is using a little video clip that I made on my Samsung phone where we add a cursor path effect and a bunch of library assets so that you can see how you can put a nice little demo together that looks very cool. And the purpose of this demo is to really open a book and just navigate around a bit. And we use all of these cool assets from the library, which include some swipes, touches, arrowheads with bursts, and a hand wave. Okay, now here's the actual demo where we go through and open the book and do all of these little things. First, we start off with the cursor path. You can see the cursor path come in, select the Kindle book. Now we're going to use swipes. So you see we're scrolling to the left a bit, and then we're going to scroll, I think, a bit to the other side. Yep, and then we select the book. So after those swipes, we use a touch tap, and now we're inside. We use the arrow effect. You see that, the click, and then now we're going out into to do a cursor path to change the font size for reading better, and then we're going to swipe down to leave there, and then another few clicks to page ahead. Nice cursor effects, and then we're going to exit. We click in the top left, and then the exit in the bottom, and a little hand wave to say goodbye. Let's talk a little more about the additional visual effects in this release. I say additional because the cursor path effect is both a cursor effect and a visual effect. Now let's look at the blend mode visual effect first, followed by a brief look at the outline edges and spotline visual effects. Simply put, blend mode enables you to blend the visuals from two pieces of media with a level of creative freedom and flexibility that's just not been available for Camtasia users before. You'll be able to combine your shot footage, your B-roll, and your images to create cinematic effects in your productions, as well as add additional unique flair to your screen recorded content. In fact, blend modes in Camtasia are the same modes that are used in Photoshop, plus a few additional matting modes modeled from After Effects. As you can see, the blend mode visual effect has 31 modes to choose from, an intensity slider, range controls that help you to tune for shadows, midtones, and highlights, and easing controls. Let's look at a few examples and keep in mind that working with blend modes is pretty much an experimental process because it's nearly impossible to predict the results. That's because the creative process here requires experimenting with the different modes and parameters until you get the results that you're looking for. Your creativity has no limits here. In this first example, I have two clips here. One is this one with the sort of like I don't know, lights sparkling with smoke coming up, and then the second clip is this gentleman silhouetted in a hoodie with smoke in behind and a brick wall. So now I want to blend these, so I'm going to put those light effects, this part on top here, which is here. We're going to go grab the blend mode, which is a visual effect, toss it on. When you see green framing there, it's in context and been added. And now you can see it right there, blend mode. And here we are. So now you can see, look, it's already blended and looks pretty nice. Let's see if there's other options. So remember, there's all of these modes, and this is how you experiment. You just put the mouse over and you go down, and you can see all these at the top part seemed to darken it, but then as we go down, we see some different results. Oh, I kind of like that one, exclusion. Let me just go a little further to see what else is there. So you can see the creativity, experimenting is going to be quite interesting, but I like exclusion there. Let's just see how that works. That looks pretty neat. And now we're going to see what happens if I play with the range a bit. Okay, first I'll check intensity. No, I want full intensity. I kind of like that. I'm just going to work with the gray range here. And if I come in, and if you can see here, if I were to cut from the highlight level coming back, I'm working on the full range. Gradually it'll take some stuff out and then gets into the shadow areas to wipe everything out. Well, kind of not like really feeling that. So I want to check in the gray shadows area, which now automatically sort of confines the range. I notice if I play with this a little bit, it sort of darkens the front a tiny bit. And I think I want that to create a little more separation between the front and the back. So now let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so I think I got what I want there. Now I'm going to show you how to use easing. So as we can see, this starts in and the sparkles come as they do in the clip, but I want to add easing in and delay it a little further. So let's go for 1.8, let's say 2 seconds, and let's just see how gradually that effect eases in. So you see here they're showing, then gradually ease in to more full-blown show. So there you go, blend mode example 1. In my next blend mode example, I have fireworks here, and as you can see there's lots going on with colors. Doesn't seem too bright or sharp, but we're going to see if we can do something after. And then I have a hyperlapse of a cityscape at night, and with all the nice lights and reflections in the water and the hyperlapse flow of the sky. It's just beautiful. So now I'm going to take the fireworks piece and put it on top here, and we're going to blend that in. We're going to grab our blend mode. We've added the effect on, and let's see what we get out of that. We're going to focus up here, and we see we have the screen one lit up. And what happens, you see in some of these, look at that, we've totally darkened the sky in this one for soft light, and these are the ones that kind of like darken things up, and then different effects. But I'm kind of let me just see here, I kind of like the linear dodge add. Let's just see that one again. Yeah, lots of action there. Okay, but now I'm going to go in and see what happens when we play with our color range stuff. If you see, if I go down, certain things are eliminating stuff, and I just want to keep everything as best I can. And I think again the gray all in this case does the best job there. And if you can see, if I were to come across, I'd be just cutting out stuff. So we're going to leave it all in, and all the color, we love it. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something else to enhance the fireworks. I'm going to go grab a color adjustment, add that, because we can compound effects, and I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to reset the values here, and I'm going to try and see if I can add a little more brightness and contrast. So I don't mind going up a little in the brightness area, so I go to about +10. In the contrast, let's say, I don't know, this looks kind of cool. Oh, if I go too far I'd lose them, so let's go about there. Add a little saturation to add the color. Let's just see how, wow, I think that makes everything pop. Beautiful. Now let's take a quick look at the outline visual edges effect. Here we have our clip from before, where we've got this nice contrasting look and expression. I'm going to add the outline edges to it. As you can see right away, we have a whole different look here, and if we go into the outline edges, we can see that we can play with the intensity. In this case, it's just varying the shades and showing more or less detail, with at 100% sort of showing the most detail. I'm going to bring it down to somewhere, I don't know, let's just go into the 40s. We're going to do some experimenting. So this, you know, let's play with the desaturate. Now it almost has a bit of a cartoon look, but because I want it to look a bit cartoonish, I'm going to add the color here, just the shape that I made to fill on top, and I'm going to add a blend mode to it on top of that. So we're going to come into our visual effects and grab the blend mode on top, and just watch what happens here when we go in here and we look at all the different colors and combinations that come in just by adding that orange shape in the blend mode. So there's so much that you can play with to express, like, you know, look at that. We could play with intensity there. We can play with our scaling in the range, right? This also, see how it interplays with the edging. There's so many, you know, creative dimensions. Just wanted to show you that edging, outline edges, adds another interesting element to your creative palette. Now let's take a look at the spotlight visual effect. I really like this one because it's quite powerful. Here's a clip I have here. You can see with the dust blowing, it almost looks like, you know, it could be a place on Mars or something, or dunes or something to that effect. So what I'm going to do is first add the spotlight effect. I toss it on, but I'm going to do it on another copy of it, so I have it right here. Automatically you see that the default, by adding the spotlight, has already got certain defaults for opacity, brightness, and focus, and easing is at 0. But you can see already this sort of darkened corners. But watch what happens. You have this ability with this line to show where the light's going to cast. And we can take it from the top end, move it all around. So watch what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to just undo, get back to the default. What I want to do now is make this side darker, but I also want to change the color. I want to make it look like it's maybe a place from Mars. So I'm going to go into orange color range. Going to get it into maybe into the reddish orange territory. Let's see. There. That kind of looks Mars-ish to me a little bit. Now I want this to be dark, so I'm going to change the focus of the light to now be more about sort of like to the other side of that. So you see how this foreground part is kind of dark, but now I can play with the focus of that light to make it even darker. So I don't want it that dark. I still want it to be there in the foreground. I want the light to go up a little higher, so I'll move that. Maybe there. And brightness we can play with. So let's see how that looks. Very powerful. Here's a second spotlight example, and as you can already see in this one, you see the sun is rising, and as it follows that the lights change and move around. Well, I'm going to try to amplify that effect. So I added the spotlight effect on here. You also see I have a few animations because you can make the spotlight tied to animation. So see here I have the spotlight on, and I made the focus more narrow so it's got a darker look around. But now watch, because of the animation I added, notice how the spotlight line follows up the sunrise. So you see how it goes from darker to lighter. And then when I got to a certain point, I decided I wanted to shift it faster to light up more of the sky to make things more dramatic. So just thought you'd like to see how playing with the spotlight effect can do so much. Another great feature in this release is the new Canvas interaction engine. With this interaction engine enhancement, there are a lot more align assist guides on the canvas compared to Camtasia 2021. And many of these added guides are for bounding box interactions. To me, this feels like there's more friction in moving things around, but I like the added alignment options as I feel I have better precision placement for the media I add onto the canvas. And I'm cool with that. Next, I really like the added ability to adjust the anchor point on any media. I often like to spin things on a center anchor point that I define for rotation. And now I have the degree of accuracy I need in my control. To move the anchor point, hover over it, and you'll see it change to white where the X mark is. Then press Control and click drag to move it. This enhancement includes anchor point snapping. And one more very important feature added here is the saving of the anchor points when media are stored in the library. This is great as it helps to ensure that the reuse of assets from the library have no issues with anchor points going awry. And while we're still on the canvas, note how there's a spell check feature on text-based callouts. When you see the red underline, click on the right mouse button for the spelling correction. There's also the ability to cut, copy, and paste the text when it's selected. You can even paste formatted text now. And one more great little addition is the duplicate media shortcut, Control D on Windows. I've also found the Control click works as well. The TechSmith asset creation folks have gone hog wild. With this release, the Camtasia 2022 library now ships with over 1,000 new assets. I'm going to share enough to get you majorly excited to go and explore the inventory of assets. I strongly recommend you do explore the scope of what's here so that you're truly aware of the bounty of assets that are at your creative fingertips. The sheer volume and quality of the assets alone that you get with this release may be incentive enough for you to want to upgrade. This reminds me of how I felt last year with the mega load of transitions that were added. It made my decision simple to make. Let's open the library door. Here we are inside of the Camtasia 2022 library, and I just wanted to show you the structure because we're going to go through a process where I'm going to show you stuff from a lot of the different folders in here. And as you can see, there's a lot in here. There's audio, callouts. There's callouts is going to be quite a section we dive into. There's counters, which are pretty cool, and indicators. They're new. I'm just going to highlight a few things. Cursor animations. There's a lot of stuff that's come into this release in assets in this area. And then we have emphasis effects, so things like bursts and collapse, little cool effects you can add and compound together around the usage of cursors, which is pretty cool. Expressive animations, hand gestures and stuff like that. Fills and overlays, lots of cool gradients to help out, and icons and glyphs. This is a very deep section. You're going to love the examples we're going to take a peek at here, and there's a bunch of titles. So now let's go into the details. To start off, we're going to look at the library callouts counters. So you can see there's a whole bunch of them here. First off, we have decreasing counters, then we have increasing counters. And what's very cool is these can easily be adjusted. So for example, if I'm on this one here, that's 10 seconds, I just need to click on it and stretch. Well, it's 11 there. Stretch or shrink, and I can adjust the numbers. That's how you control the length of the time. And then if we continue, here's an example of using an increasing timer, and we're going to just pretend we had our subscriber 300 count, and we just, reached that milestone, and we were going to celebrate. So the beauty is you can use these counters, count up, count down, and format them, color them, style them. It's going to be like very cool. And we haven't had something like this to use that was easy, and now we do. And behind each one of these things is a format, which is, in this case, it's showing you that we're using frames, and there's 30 frames in a second. So that's just to show you what's there. And again, you can just control the length of this to determine your numbers. So that's pretty cool. And here's one more example. Let's pretend we were working with a live stream that was starting in 30 seconds. So we just created a 30-second countdown timer. But in this case, I was only interested in the section that would show the minutes and seconds. So the timer I put on had this full format, and then I just netted it down to this. That's all we need in order to see the minutes and seconds. Next up, we have the area of indicator and text, as you can see here in the library. And indicator and text is very fascinating because these are very cool animated elements. As you can see here, they draw in, and in some cases have text and dividers and multiple fields. They're very useful in helping you to annotate and bring animation to different kinds of things. And now I'm going to just show an example here where this is like a picture. I think it's in Hong Kong somewhere, and I'm just showing made up, like this is the financial district and those are the local condos. So just imagine having pictures with sophisticated things, and you can bring these busy pictures, and you want to be able to point things out. As an example, you can bring in these really nice library assets, and there's a bounty of these. Next up, we have the indicators, and they are plentiful. You can see there's a whole bunch of folders with indicators. They're basically, a certain number of set designs and then done in all kinds of colors and execution. And we're just going to show you, here's an example of one. These are those animated elements we saw as an example in the last set. What I want to show you is how these are actually made. So if you look here, this is one that I took from the library and put it on the track. If I open this up, you're going to see there's a track mat in here, and there's a shape underneath. And if we look here on the left side, we can see that it's an alpha track mat. But if I turn it to none, you can see that it's really just a layer of an animation, which is this white one, and then the shape underneath. And when we apply the track matte on, put it onto alpha, the color comes through. It's that simple. So in case you're thinking about it, you can actually, you know, work on creating these kind of designs for yourself, because they're really just comprised of a shape underneath and then that animation. The cool part is these animations, which were done, a ton of them by TechSmith, and they may be JSON files, but they're in essence video clips. So now let's go on and look at a whole set of these. So as you can see, each one of these, there's different sets on the library on the left side. So what I've done is I put together a whole set for us just to kind of spin or whip through, so you can see so many of the different angles and ways that they put it. So here it's going up to the top right, and then the next one comes in and it's a curve, and then the next one is a curve and then a flat cut, and then straight across. I think you get the idea. So there's just all kinds of permutations and combinations. If you see, you know, I can just play, you can see a few of them execute. So there's that one, and then the next one comes. Then we got curve that way, and you get the idea. Okay, we're humming along. Now we're going to pick up the pace a little. Our next section here is called indicators with dividers. Okay, and now this will look familiar, except we've just added a divider piece at the end. So if you can see that this one plays, and then we start to go to the next ones, and you'll see they also have dividers at the end. So I think you get the idea, and then we'll go around the clock with you know, all the derivations. So to save time, I'll just sort of spin our clock forward and just show you again, you know, all of the different designs and options are there for you, so you can just choose what you want from the library to suit your needs and change the colors. You know, it's very simple. After callouts, we next have the channel kit, and as you can see, these are nice assets to use for YouTube. Subscribe, and you know, they're nice and animated. Just, you know, add these to your timeline, and you've got some cool animations for YouTube. Next up, after the channel kit, we have cursor animations, which is quite an elaborate area. So we're going to just, you know, look at some of these things. As you can see, it's quite extensive. So library, cursor animations. So here are some pretty awesome animations with cursors. Like, look at those circles, the animation, the hearts, very cool. Next up is cursor heroes. So we're going to see as we go down, we go to next up, it's cursor heroes. We're just going to show you a couple of examples here. There's really sophisticated animations for cursors. Again, these are, you know, something you're going to use when you add the cursor effect to your applications. The animations are just brilliant. Next up, we have library emphasis effects. If we come in here, come down, I'm going to jump into the emphasis effects here. And again, let's look at some amazing animations. Okay, again, like those are like bursts that you can use for clicks and points, and you know, more. These are some collapses. Very, very cool, the options that you have. And these are gestures. These are you know, very cool. So I use these in one of the demos. That's like a tap, and then this would be like a pinch. The middle one here is a pinch in, and the other one was like a swipe, and then another kind of tap. Lots of very interesting stuff. Now we're coming to the expressive animations, and you're going to see some cool examples here. Look at this, the hand drawing a nice circle around, or that same kind of gesture without drawing. You know, so many options to add cursor effects to your applications. Here's nice hand-drawn animated arrows. You know, there's lots of really hand-drawn X. Next up, we have fills and overlays, and these are great because of things like media mats, track mats, you know, and blend mode. You can use these kind of gradients. That was first off a dark gradient, now duotones, and you have the ability to add these assets that are kind of like partially designed for you, and then you can play with the colors. Here's light gradient, and then our next up is a multicolor gradient, and you can see that, you know, these are just beautiful looking. And imagine animating your text and other things and having these move, or creating motion backgrounds and have text on top, and blending them with other things. There's just so many cool things here, and there's a whole host of options here inside the library. So this is going to be a very creative addition to what you're doing. Next up, we have icons and glyphs, and as you can see, there's a micro animations category and a static. So all the micro animation ones are animations, and then there's static versions of each of these. So let's go look at a few examples. And like I said, this is the library icons and glyphs area. These are just brilliant, beautiful micro animations. Like, just look at how colorful they are, and simple animation. You can change these colors and adapt them to anything that you want. And I think these are also going to be, you know, very useful for video marketing and all kinds of messaging you might want to do. So we're now down to the last few categories, titles, and this is one I really love, because what you're going to see here is some amazing animations that you'll be able to easily modify and do things with. So one of the things I didn't show you is all of these have quick properties. So on the side here, I can easily change the text, the colors, and do what I want. So if I wanted to, I could just key in there, but I'm just showing you off some of the, you know, beautiful animations that are here in the titles, and just, you know, like going through a set of them. You know, there I already changed my name. If I wanted to change that back, I could easily just click on this and come in here where I have Gord Isman, and I've keyed in something like Camtasia 2022. And bang. That's how quick it is to modify these. And you can also easily change the color. So if you were to come in and see that, look at how easy that was. A lot of fun. Next up we have, oh, I just love the effects here. Imagine trying to create these yourself, and you can just go in, and in that case, as an example, you know, you could just come in again and look at here on the quick properties on the right hand side. You could just key in anything you want or change the colors. These assets are now very powerful. A lot of these are in also a lot of these type of assets are in the text with assets library, but there's some included here right inside the default library, Camtasia 2022 library. Let's look at the library UI kit. So if we're going to come down here, coming into the last category, library UI kit, and now you can see that we have these device kind of setups. This is a phone, and as you can see here, we have all these properties we can update and touch and change the colors of to customize the look of these kind of devices. So I think they're, you know, just going to another level of being able to help you do mock-ups and create things and have real professional look in what you do. Here's the version of it for a tablet, and again, you know, look at all of the details that you can change with this one on the side here in the quick properties. These I love. These are, you know, search field elements. So if I wanted to use that, I could just, you know, come in here and say, okay, I don't want it to say screen video. I want it to say Camtasia review. Press enter. And if I wanted it to be a different color, let's just say I wanted it to be orange. There you go. And then you just play. Like, I mean, doesn't get more simple than that. Pretty quick and easy. And I love this. This is like, you know, turning an option on, so on your smartphone or something. So it's like a little toggle animation, kind of cool. And then our last one is another search bar kind of typing thing. That's it. I just love the new Camtasia 2022 home screen. First off, there's a lot more real estate. It seems to be much wider than the one in 2021. Right on the top line, there's this really cool feature to launch the recorders for any of the apps, Camtasia, Audiate, or Snagit. What's really cool about that is you get to, right from the home screen, launch any recorder. It'll take you into the app, and then when you're finished, it'll open up the app with the recording in it. I just love that. It's a big time saver right from the home screen. Also, look at these beautiful thumbnails that are showcased here. This just makes it so much more pleasant to be able to find, locate, and if you can tell from the thumbnail, you know, which project you want to open. I like that there's more detail here, giving you dates and sizes of the files, and there's also templates. They're also here with thumbnails. So just a lot more visual enhancement, a lot more eye-catching in the bottom. There's this info telling you about your license and your status of your license. And then now let's pop out to the Learn tab. In the Learn tab, look at this. We have a search bar now, and we have all of these sort of clickable options, whereas before all these kinds of features were in just like a long scroll. It's just all nice and accessible and tight here, and not very visual. Clicking on any of these options will take you out. And then there's the Resources tab, which was formerly called Help, and now the Help's in here, plus these other options. So all told, like, they did a really nice job, and you just see, you can see things a lot more just at a glance, and without having a vertical scroll like you did, you can just see everything here without leaving the screen. I really, really like that. They did a wonderful job. The Camtasia recorder has been updated to support additional virtual cameras and capture cards, and going forward, there are plans for even more added support. I personally use the Manicam virtual camera and the Elgato Camlink 4K capture card. They work great with the Camtasia recorder. I use the Manicam to help me with multiple camera angles, as you can see me using here right now. I use the Elgato Camlink 4K to capture the input from my Sony a6400 mirrorless camera, and it just works great. Another key release feature related to the recorder is the use of the cursor metadata from the recordings. The metadata is now accessible to you via the cursor path editing and the new cursor path effect features. I've already covered this in the video, how to use these features, and demonstrated how they can help you to amp up your how-to and instructional videos, making them even more professional and clean. Let's get creative. In Camtasia 2022, the Export tab has been updated and now has two options for local file export. The first option is for local file with the new modern look and single click preset options that function, but you don't have in there the options to produce either a WMV file or an AVI. And because these are being deprecated, they're not present in the new version of the local file experience. So you have to go and use the legacy local file option in order to still do that. This is obviously a work in progress, and there's more to come. But if you're going to deal with your WMV or your AVI files, and the smart player stuff, you're going to need to use the legacy local file option. This year, there are an additional 30 new GPU accelerated transitions across a variety of categories, bringing the transitions total in Camtasia to over 150. You're now looking at a small sampling of these transitions. Let's be honest, there are so many transitions to choose from across the 8 categories. Nobody should be troubled to find a great option to use. The key is to have patience, test out a few options, and make smart choices. And above all, don't overuse them. And last but not least is the integration of Camtasia and Audiate. This is not a small topic, and so I intend to do a separate tutorial on it in the future. That said, I'll mention that you can send video from within Camtasia to Audiate, where you can do simple editing via deleting, cutting, and pasting transcribed text. The cool part to note is that on return to Camtasia from Audiate, the autosync will now automatically move objects on the Camtasia timeline to match the edits made in Audiate. And you'll still be able to apply effects, animations, and cursor adjustments because the return media has been stitched together. And of course, you can also send video that you edit in Audiate directly into Camtasia. There you have it, a walkthrough with demonstrations of many of the great new features in Camtasia 2022. And remember to keep an eye out for my future tutorials to come. For those of you who currently have the TechSmith maintenance plan, Camtasia 2022 is a free upgrade. For the rest of you, maybe it's time to dive into an upgrade and enjoy all the great new features and productivity gains. And if you're new to Camtasia, there's no time like the present to enjoy the awesome power of this video recording and video editing software. Thanks, and I'll see you in another video soon.